The following program is made possible by the friends and partners of GodQuest Ministries.
So where is the Garden of Eden today anyway? Well, from the CTN studio in Pensacola, Florida, this is the Creation Today show, and we're going to be answering that question. I'm one of your hosts, Eric Hovind, and this is Paul Taylor.
And on today's show, we're going to be asking about what the days of Peleg were, questioning whether the laws of thermodynamics really apply to the creation and evolution debate, and asking, as you said, where the Garden of Eden is today.
If you got questions, we've got answers straight from God's Word. You can ask them at questions@creationtoday.org. Join us on Facebook, facebook.com/creationtoday. We believe the Bible is literally true and scientifically accurate. We are having a great day here in Pensacola, Florida, and are looking forward to, in just a few weeks, being up in the opposite corner of the United States, Oregon.
That's right, we're taking a trip to Oregon, to Portland, Oregon, and there's going to be a conference there at the Holiday Inn near the airport in Portland, the Creation Northwest Conference.
The Northwest Creation Conference.
The Northwest Creation Conference.
Which
but what's
you can
the website?
find out about at Creation NW for Northwest, creationnw.org. Would love to see you there at the conference, and it's going to be on February 11th. So if you're in the area or you want to fly in, we'd love to see you up there at that conference. It'd be fun.
And of course, at the diagonally opposite corner of the United States,
right.
There'll be a conference in October of this year in Orlando.
That's
Orlando
true.
in
Now,
Florida.
I can't figure out why would people go to the Northwest in February. Isn't that when it's freezing up there? Yes.
Well,
come on, we like to schedule meetings down south in the winter, up north in the summer. That's the way we like to handle things. Doesn't always work out that way, but we've got it figured out for the Proof of God conference, though.
That's right, because that's going to be in sunny Orlando.
Oh, it's going to be beautiful.
It's going to be marvelous. And you and I are speaking, and we've got Cy Ten Bruggen, Kate, we've got Carl Kirby,
yep.
We've got Mark Spence.
Man, it is really going to be a great time. A couple days there, Friday and Saturday. Free Chick-fil-A lunch is going to be provided, and I'd encourage you to go to proofconference.com in order to register or get more information about that. It's really going to be a good event.
Get a move on for that too, because the early bird discount is still available at the moment. So
all you cheap people like me, get out there and get your registration in early.
You know, I think we ought to mention one of our websites too. I think we should mention creationstore.org.
Great website, tons of incredible resources from lots of different ministries are put on creationstore.org, and they're put there to strengthen people's faith in God's Word.
Absolutely. It's very, I mean, we're biased because we're there, we're excited by it, but you know, I think people enjoy looking at it. If you're driving past, you'll notice the dinosaurs, and you can come on in and talk to us. What about
You're talking about our on-location one, the one here in Pensacola, Florida.
I'm talking about that. Of course, there is the website one, but if you actually call in, there is, of course, a dinosaur ride, isn't there?
It is incredible. We just got an 18-foot long, 9-foot tall Apatosaurus that is rideable. The kids get to go for a ride on this Apatosaurus. It's really neat.
You don't go very far. You don't go down the street, you know, because we don't want to terrorize the locals.
But we got the reins on it. We're good.
That's great.
I love that. So if you're in Pensacola, make sure and stop by the Creation Store and pay us a visit at 5800 North W Street.
Hey,
got some good questions.
We've got some brilliant questions to answer, and the first one, it's a very long question, in fact, from Scott, but the gist of it is this. He said, what about the days of Peleg? What were they? And what does it mean about the earth being divided? Was this the time when the continents were spread apart? You know, we ought to mention that you can't really get a fully definitive answer from what it says in Genesis 10:25.
Let me read that. Yeah, Genesis 10:25 says, let me find it here. To Abraham, this is going through the genealogies. It's so-and-so begat so-and-so, so-and-so begat so-and-so. And then it throws this little interesting phrase in right in the middle of Genesis chapter 10. And it just comes out of nowhere and then goes right back to genealogies. It says, to Eber were born 2 sons. The name of one was Peleg, for in his days the earth was divided. and so begat so-and-so, and so begat so-and-so. Then it moves right on. But it mentions right here that in Peleg's day, the earth was divided. So what happened there?
Yeah. Well, I mean, there are a couple of different possible explanations there. And yes, the one explanation that some people have is that maybe the continents were divided at that stage. But it's also interesting to notice that Peleg's birth would have been, if you look at the various generations, his birth would have been during the lifetime, right in the middle of the lifetime of Nimrod.
That's right.
Nimrod's an interesting character.
He's the one who was building a tower.
Well, we think he was the one who was building a tower. We certainly know that he was the one. It says he's a mighty hunter. And really what it's saying when it says it's a mighty hunter before the Lord, is really saying he's a mighty hunter in the face of the Lord.
Wow.
It's like saying he's someone who shakes his fist at God. And we know that, we know he built Babylon. That was one of the things that he did. So maybe he was the person in control in Babylon at the time when the Tower of Babel was built.
So Peleg's time frame matches up with the Tower of Babel.
Yeah, in which case the division could be the division of the people groups across the world. That's one possible suggestion.
How do we know that? Because we've got a chart.
We have indeed.
Backwards.
Let's try it that way around.
We've got a chart that shows us this. This thing is incredible. If you've never seen Adam's chart of history, this is available at the Creation Store.
It's absolutely beautiful,
This is awesome, man. It is 23 feet long, and it goes through all of history. Now I got to fold it back up, and we got to find Peleg and Nimrod, which should be right around here somewhere.
All of history up till 1876, because it was designed for the 100th anniversary of the United States of America.
But right here we got, I don't know if the lighting is any good on this here, and if you get this chart, maybe we can get a better picture of it for you guys. You see that Peleg is right in there. Yep, right there. And in his days, the earth was divided. That's right at the same time the Tower of Babel was going on. So here's Peleg's birth, and he lived on, and it shows what else is going on in the world while this is happening. And you can see that the Tower of Babel, the time of the Tower of Babel, the people, the languages were confused and they were split up, was right during Peleg's day. So it's very interesting.
It must have been very unusual at the time of the Tower of Babel. You know, one of them was working on something saying, he wants to say, can you pass me the hammer, please, Jim? And all the other person here says, pass moi le marteau, Jacques. And, just couldn't understand each other.
Wow. Now we have
rehearsing that one.
You must have, because I'm going, I wish I could throw another language at you, but I don't know another one. I wonder what that would have been like. That really would have been wild to all of a sudden have this diversification. And that is what caused the people to spread out around the world like God told them to do to begin with.
That's right. I mean, they didn't have to be like that, did they? God told them, gave them a command after the flood to scatter and to fill the earth and to subdue it. That's what he told them to do. Did they do what he told them to do?
No, they didn't.
No. And what we're suggesting then is that when Nimrod and others, by building these cities, is trying to keep people in one place. If we're right about what Nimrod means, then he was, in a sense, the world's first military dictator. There's one bit where it says that he went into Asher. That could have been a military invasion. It could have been the fact that he was the world's first military dictator. The sort of, like you've got Genghis Khan, you've got Napoleon, you've got Hitler, and so on, and maybe the first one of those was Nimrod.
Another idea about the days of Peleg being divided, I've heard some people say that's when God took the continents and spread them apart.
Yes.
Now, I know we see evidence of that, but we would put that more towards during the flood, at the beginning of the flood, when that took place.
We would suggest that that's the division of the physical division of continental place would probably have taken place in the first couple of days, the first 45 days or so of the flood. It's a theory been developed by creationists called the catastrophic plate tectonic theory.
Correct. And then there's another idea out there that says, okay, possibly the days of Peleg, when the earth was divided, is when the ice caps were retreating from the ice age, and it added water to the ocean levels. The ocean levels came up to a certain degree where finally land bridges that had been connecting all these continents were no longer connected.
And of course, both those could go together.
Correct.
They could go together indeed.
So what were the days of Peleg, and how was the earth divided? Either people or land or both? Those are the options. Those are the possibilities.
That's right. Another question coming up right after this. Welcome back. You're still watching the Creation Today show with me, Paul Taylor, and with Eric Hovind.
Hope you're still watching. We got some good stuff on Peleg there. Those are the ideas.
Well, if you're not watching, then there's no need for us to talk to them, so they've turned off the television. But we were talking about you say Peleg, and I say Peleg, and you say tomato, and I say tomato.
Yeah,
and
you got it all wrong. You Brits over there. I know you sound smart, but you say some things totally wrong, okay?
You know, I could probably say as a Brit that some people reckon that the language of Shakespeare is probably closer to American English than to British English because of the way they
and you said reckon. We are turning him into a Southerner, man. Well, Paul reckoned too, which is, well, I guess he's a Southerner.
Absolutely. You know, we're talking about the days of Peleg, whatever you say. But as one of the corollaries to the question, we just briefly mentioned the catastrophic plate tectonic theory. One of the theories about how the continental plates could have moved apart at the beginning of the flood. And that would be going beyond the question really to say too much about it. But if you're interested in finding out more about that, there is a superb 2-volume work called Earth's Catastrophic Past by Dr. Andrew Snelling. This is an absolutely superb book. It is very, very difficult. It's a scientific stuff.
I started yawning. I'm like, okay. You really got to want to know the stuff to get into that.
This is one of those books that you have to have and put on your bookshelf. You may well not read it through. I must
you might refer to it. That's where you go. You see the footnote, so you go check it out.
I've referred to it. I've not read through it yet. But one of the interesting things about it, if you look at the chapters in it, the chapter divisions, you'll think, I recognise that. And the reason why you recognise it is because the chapter divisions are pretty much the same as in the famous book, The Genesis Flood, by Henry Morris and John Whitcomb. And in fact, there is an endorsement in here by John Whitcomb. There's a foreword by John Morris, and of course the late Henry Morris had actually asked Andrew Snelling to produce an update to the Genesis Flood. So this is it. Andrew wanted to give it a new name, but I know you can get that from a number of creationist organizations around the world. I got mine from icr.org.
Okay, yeah, great place to get stuff. And we need to mention, by the way, the Genesis Flood that Henry Morris wrote really was the Kickstarter to the creation movement, right?
That's right. And last year, 2011, was the 50th anniversary of the publication of that book.
And it is, I mean, Henry Morris, known as the grandfather of the creation movement, really started it off. And that book had significant influence literally around the world, especially here in America, starting the whole creation movement.
What people need to remember with Andrew's book is that the theology is still the same. The theology hasn't changed because the Bible hasn't changed.
Exactly.
Of course, the science has. The science has developed, and we needed new scientific comments for the 21st century. But the theology is still exactly the same.
Some really, really good stuff. Well, we got another question we want to hit here. Dale has a question concerning the second law of thermodynamics. And he's not a very friendly guy to us, but we'll just get straight to the question. Most creationists say that due to this law, we lose energy or gain entropy, which is disorder. Things break down and or break apart. But this guy Victor Steinger cites water as a counterexample, that when you lose energy, it actually becomes more structured in the form of water and eventually ice, as opposed to breaking down and becoming more disordered a state like a gas. He suggests we can apply this principle to other things in the universe as well. So what do you think about this? It seems to run contrary to the second law of thermodynamics. And, like a lot of skeptics out there, they'll say, you creationists don't even understand the second law of thermodynamics. You guys shouldn't even use it because you don't understand it.
It probably is true that some creationists have misused the second law of thermodynamics at some stages. What people have said is, sometimes some creationists have said, well, the second law of thermodynamics couldn't have existed before the fall. Now, that's clearly not the case. For example, friction is a non-conservative force and therefore only works because of the second law of thermodynamics. But friction must have existed before the fall. True. Otherwise, Adam and Eve would have been walking around in the Garden of Eden like being on an ice rink. So there must have been friction there. But what is the case is the creationists have quite rightly pointed out the second law of thermodynamics talks about increasing disorder. And so what we've said is that evolution doesn't fit with that.
No, it goes against it, actually. And it is a valid point to say, look, you don't start with rock and get human beings without going against the second law of thermodynamics. And we really ought to hit all the laws real quick, just so they know, look, we do understand these laws.
Yeah, before we just mention the laws, though, here's the trick, because what the evolutionists have said is you creationists don't understand this because the second law of thermodynamics applies to a closed system, not an open system, whereas the Earth Earth is an open system because you've got the sun's energy coming in. But it's not, is it? You see,
they're just limiting it to the Earth.
Yeah, if you've got the sun's energy coming into the Earth, that does not in itself create order.
Not
if it did, you can imagine sticking a dead leaf down in the sun,
yeah.
and when the sun's heated it up, what have you got? A hot dead leaf.
A hot dead leaf, nothing else. Yeah, it doesn't add anything to it.
That's right. To actually get the chemicals being produced, you need information.
And and life, plant life, information. So with that example, it is not a. And by the way, when you go outside of our Earth, the universe as a whole would have to be considered a closed system.
By definition, it's a closed system.
Correct.
There's nothing outside it. So that's an important.
So their own
one
argument fails there miserably.
Yeah, we understand the laws of thermodynamics. There are 4 laws altogether. The first law says that energy can't be created or destroyed, just changed from one to another. The second law says that in that energy change, I'm paraphrasing it a bit here, it's the message version really of the second law of thermodynamics. If energy is changed from one form to another, during that change, some energy is going to be wasted,
lost,
usually in the form of low temperature heat. The third, that's called entropy, the measure of the loss of energy is entropy. The third law says that a perfect crystal at absolute zero has no entropy. Now that's interesting why it can't lose anything, and that really just sort of contradicts what the substance is in this question that we'll come to. Then they realized that there must be a law before the first law, so they had to call it the 0th law, which says that if 2 systems are in thermal equilibrium with a third, then they must be in thermal equilibrium with each other. The practical application of that is you stick a thermometer in this one, measure its temperature, stick a thermometer in that one. If it's the same temperature, it's because the thermometer is the third system, therefore they must be in thermal equilibrium with each other.
Yep. Okay, so is water going from a gas to a liquid to a solid as you lose energy? Is that actually doing what he says here with the second law of thermodynamics?
Gaining information. The answer is no, it isn't, because the molecules are still the same. The shape of the ice crystal is due to the arrangement of the atoms. It's inherent in the system. So as you cool down the water and it freezes to form these beautiful ice crystals, you are not adding energy. That is not analogous to the positioning of the various proteins and base groups in DNA. It's not analogous to that.
I mean, you may get proteins, but you're not going to get DNA. You're not going to get the information that is encoded there in DNA. And that's really what the whole intelligent design movement is all about, is that you can't have just this. It's going to have information put into it. It's going to have to be arranged in the right way.
That's right. So it's this question of information that really matters. You are not gaining information when you're cooling water to turn into ice. You need information. And people are forgetting this when evolutionists say that we don't understand the second law of thermodynamics. They have forgot the whole business of information. That information can only be created by an outside intelligence.
You know, if his theory is true, though, I should be able to set you on fire, add lots of energy, and make you even better arranged. You want to try it?
I could do with being better arranged. I might lose some weight there.
But this idea of, okay, if you add the heat, and then let you cool back off, it's going to be better arranged. No, that's not necessarily the case.
It doesn't make much sense, does it?
No, whatsoever. Hey, we got some more questions coming right up.
Come visit us at the Creation Store located at 5800 North W Street, Suite 9 in Pensacola, Florida. Just look for the 2 big dinosaurs out front. Here you will find lots of products from charts and graphs to books and DVDs, as well as many other items, all explaining the truth about our great creator. While you're here, check out our new and exciting Science Center, which includes displays like our giant ant farm, collection of ichthyostones, a 7.5-foot snake, and much more. It's all at the Creation Store located at the corner of W Street and Airport Boulevard in Pensacola.
Welcome back to Creation Today, where we're answering your questions. Remember, we'd love to answer some more of your questions. If you want to, send them into questions@Creation Today. Also, check out our website, creationtoday.org.
You know, in the last segment, Eric, Dale asked, did we have any resources on the subject of the second law of thermodynamics? Reasonably easy to understand resources, and of course there are in the New Answers books.
They've done a great job going through quite a few different questions and giving great, solid biblical answers. That, man, how do you argue when you've got the truth? I feel sorry for people that try to argue against the truth. It's like,
You really
in a
need
lose-lose
this
situation.
You really need this resource. There's nearly 100 questions in total on all those 3, and I know there's a discount if you get all 3. And of course, you can get those from creationstore.org.
It's a great place.
It's a marvelous place. You've got an article on thermodynamics there, and you've got an article on the question that we're about to answer in a moment as well. So they're in there as well. But perhaps I should also mention there's a new product that Answers in Genesis have come out with called the Answers Book for Teens.
Done an incredible job with this, and let me tell you, the content in here hits home right exactly what teenagers are asking today.
This is great
incredible.
Stuff. I mean, my good friend Bodie Hodge has produced this, put this together along with Ken Ham and Tommy Mitchell, and it's just very, very good quality stuff. Lots of really good pictures and so on inside it, and it's just an exciting layout. Very good information.
Exceptional work. Good job, AIG. Keep up the great work. We got another question here that we want to answer. And who asked this?
This is Brittany.
Oh, Brittany, yeah. She said, I was wondering, does the Bible mention what happened to the Garden of Eden after Adam and Eve were kicked out? Where was it? Does it still exist somewhere today? What happened to it?
This is a really good question because you hear about this all the time. I don't know whether you got this in the United States, but certainly in 2003 when there was the invasion of Iraq, one of the things that the BBC kept saying on their news reports was, this is the site of the legendary Garden of Eden.
And they were just coming out, they said that's it, huh?
Yeah.
Wow, interesting.
That's it, absolutely.
Now, I've heard a couple different theories on where the Garden of Eden could be today. I think we need to address what we think about it, but here's some of the theories I've heard. I've heard that, no, it still is where the Tigris and Euphrates River are because, hey, the Bible says that there were 4 rivers, and one was Tigris and one was Euphrates, so it's got to be right there.
Yes.
In the Mesopotamian Valley.
But then that could place it in one of 2 places. It could place it somewhere near the sources of the rivers, up in the mountains.
That's true.
Or it could place it where the 2 rivers flow together just before they flow into the, I think it's the Persian Gulf they flow into.
Really that doesn't work anyway when you think about it because there were 4 rivers that had the same source or different sources?
One source is one river out of Eden divided into 4 rivers.
Into 4, that's correct.
Where are the other 2 rivers anyway?
I don't remember the name of them. Might have to look it up.
Well, the point is they're not there.
They aren't there.
They're not there in that particular place.
What are they? What were they?
I can never remember. I think it's the Pishon and the Havilah. It's in like Genesis chapter 2. You should have turned to that beforehand, shouldn't we? But there it is there, and there are 4. The point is there are 4 streams. Those other 2 are not there. So it doesn't make a lot of sense to say that's the site of the Garden of Eden.
That one really doesn't work. Okay, here's another one. I've heard the idea of where Christ was crucified is the same place where Abraham was going to offer Isaac. I can buy that. I can see that.
Yes.
And therefore, that is where the Garden of Eden was.
I like that idea better, but it is still problematic. And the reason why it's problematic is if you look at the end of Genesis chapter 3, what happened to the Garden of Eden when Adam and Eve were expelled from the Garden of Eden? It says that God drove out the man and he placed cherubim at the east of the Garden of Eden and a flaming sword which turned every way to guard the way to the tree of life. Now, I must admit, I have not been to Jerusalem personally. Have you?
I have not had that chance.
No, but I do know people who've been there. They haven't reported to me about there being a garden there with a cherubim outside
I certainly haven't heard it. You think that would be on the news?
I think so. I think, certainly you should be able to find it on Google Earth.
Yeah, the cherubim right here. He's shining. That's great. Satellite image.
So I'm being facetious here, but there is an important point here. If you go back to the whole idea about the Tigris and the Euphrates and the Euphrates are flowing over sedimentary rock.
It's true.
Now, why should that be significant? Because we believe that sedimentary rock was laid down at the time of the flood. Sedimentary rock is the rock that contains fossils. By definition, you will find fossils in sedimentary rock. Therefore, the rock underneath the Tigris and Euphrates was laid down in the flood, which means that the Tigris and Euphrates flowing over them cannot be the same Tigris and Euphrates as the ones mentioned flowing out of the Garden of Eden.
Exactly. Because there wouldn't have been fossils there, unless Hugh Ross is right. And I don't think he's right.
Or the local flood. So that's significant. Now, what are we saying then? The Tigris and the Euphrates have gone. The Garden of Eden's gone. Where's it gone?
Well, let me read some passages out of, this is Genesis chapter 7. It talks about the flood. And here's a couple passages. Now, the flood was on the earth 40 days. The waters increased and lifted up the ark, and it rose above the earth. The waters prevailed and greatly increased on the earth. The ark was moved about the surface of the water, and the waters prevailed exceedingly on the earth. All the high hills under the whole heaven were covered. The waters prevailed 15 cubits upward, and the mountains were covered. All flesh died that moved on the earth, birds, cattle, beasts, creeping thing. The earth was destroyed.
So the Garden of Eden was destroyed.
Had to be destroyed
Everything
during
that
that
God
flood.
had put there was destroyed during the flood. But hold on a minute, there's a problem with what you and I have just been saying there, isn't there? Because people would say, well, hold on, it's the Tigris and the Euphrates. Why
That's
are they
right.
called the Tigris and Euphrates?
Well, it only makes sense that when they got off the ark, they found some rivers and they renamed them the same thing that they were before.
They knew the names, didn't they? You know, if we got in a car here and drove out of Pensacola northwards, and you keep going, just sort of a couple of different changes of direction, you will eventually, is that northwards?
Yes, that's
I was
north.
thinking that. I'm sure
Nope,
you're right.
this way.
You will eventually reach a place called Birmingham. Or I think it's called Birmingham.
Yes,
isn't it?
Birmingham is the proper way to say
Alabama.
that. That's correct.
Except there is one in England, and I used to live not too far away from it. So
really?
that one was called Birmingham. Well,
Birmingham.
actually, it was called Birmingham because British listeners, viewers, will know that in Birmingham they can't breathe through the nose and they talk like that.
Are you serious?
Absolutely. That's how they talk there.
Oh, that's great.
So why is Birmingham, Alabama called Birmingham? Why? There's a marvelous coincidence there, isn't there?
Yeah, obviously it's the same place.
It is, yes, in a different dimension. Of course, it's named after
Right.
the Birmingham in England.
And there's a lot of those around the world today that exist. Isn't it Massachusetts?
But even Boston,
Boston, yeah,
Massachusetts,
Boston,
is named
Massachusetts.
after a village in Lincolnshire where the Mayflower settlers gathered together before they made the trip to Plymouth to get on the boat to come over to America.
Boston and Boston. So Tigris and Euphrates just happens to be the same name. It doesn't necessarily mean that they are the same exact rivers that existed in the Garden of Eden.
And we're saying it can't be because they're
Yeah.
on that sedimentary rock, and we've just read from God's word, which is always going to be our
I know,
touchstone.
this is the foundation.
That's always the answer, that everything was destroyed, the whole earth was destroyed.
Yeah, there's some other verses too. 2 Peter 3:6. The world that then was being overflowed with water perished. And of course, 2 Peter 3:5. The scoffers are willingly ignorant of the flood,
That's the thing
despite
that
all the
they're
evidence.
deliberately forgetting, isn't it?
Man, we want to thank you guys so much for joining us for Creation Today. If you have questions, please send them into questions@creationtoday.org.
Remember, you can Twitter us at Creation Today or go to our Facebook page, facebook.com/Creation Today.
And these shows are archived on there, so creationtoday.org is where you can go and listen to these podcasts or get them on DVD.
Well, this has been a production of God Quest Ministries. Thank you for watching.
This program is available on DVD by visiting creationstore.org or by calling 877-479-3466. To order this episode, use the item number displayed on your screen.
The following program is made possible by the friends and partners of GodQuest Ministries.
So where is the Garden of Eden today anyway? Well, from the CTN studio in Pensacola, Florida, this is the Creation Today show, and we're going to be answering that question. I'm one of your hosts, Eric Hovind, and this is Paul Taylor.
And on today's show, we're going to be asking about what the days of Peleg were, questioning whether the laws of thermodynamics really apply to the creation and evolution debate, and asking, as you said, where the Garden of Eden is today.
If you got questions, we've got answers straight from God's Word. You can ask them at questions@creationtoday.org. Join us on Facebook, facebook.com/creation today.
In Portland, the Creation Northwest Conference.
The Northwest Creation Conference.
The Northwest Creation Conference.
Which
but what's
you
the
can find out about at Creation NW for Northwest, creationnw.org. Would love to see you there at the conference, and it's going to be on February 11th. So if you're in the area or you want to fly in, we'd love to see you up there at that conference. It'd be fun.
And of course, at the diagonally opposite corner of the United
That's
States,
right.
there'll be a conference in October of this year in Orlando.
That's
Orlando
true.
in
Now,
Florida.
I can't figure out why would people go to the Northwest in February. Isn't that when it's freezing up there? Yes.
Well,
come on. We like to schedule meetings down south in the winter, up north in the summer. That's where you can get your registration in early.
You know, I think we ought to mention one of our websites too. I think we should mention creationstore.org.
Great website. Tons of incredible resources from lots of different ministries are put on creationstore.org, and they're put there to strengthen people's faith in God's Word.
Absolutely. It's very, I mean, we're biased because we're there, we're excited by it, but you know, I think people enjoy looking at it. If you're driving past, you'll notice the dinosaurs, and you can come on in and talk to us. What about
You're talking about our on-location one, the one here in Pensacola, Florida.
I'm talking about that. Of course, there is the website one, but if you actually call in, there is, of course, a dinosaur ride, isn't there?
It is incredible. We just got an 18-foot long, 9-foot tall day. We believe the Bible is literally true and scientifically accurate. We are having a great day here in Pensacola, Florida, and are looking forward to, in just a few weeks, being up in the opposite corner of the United States, Oregon.
That's right. We're taking a trip to Oregon, to Portland, Oregon, and there's going to be a conference there at the Holiday Inn near the airport.
We like to handle things. Doesn't always work out that way, but we've got it figured out for the Proof of God conference, though.
That's right, because that's going to be in sunny Orlando.
Oh, it's going to be beautiful.
It's going to be marvelous. And you and I are speaking, and we've got Cy ten Bruggen, Kate, we've got Carl Kirby,
yep.
We've got Mark Spence.
Man, it is really going to be a great time. A couple days there, Friday and Saturday. Free Chick-fil-A lunch is going to be provided, and I'd encourage you to go to proofconference.com in order to register or get more information about that. It's really going to be a good event.
Get a move on for that too, because the early bird discount is still available at the moment. So
all you cheap people like me, get out there.